This princess was abducted by the kingdom's sworn enemy, but she succeeds in running away. However, an unfortunate incident forces the princess to travel back to the enemy and fight for her kingdom's prosperity. This is Bayala, a home to different elven tribes. Here the elves used to live in harmony with the most mythical creatures of all, the dragons. Their lovely bond made Bayala the land of magic. The elves were responsible for looking after the dragon eggs all year round, and each year, a huge feast is held, and the hatched eggs are returned to their parents. But one day, Ophira, the queen of the shadow elves, stole all the dragon eggs and baby Sura, the princess of the sun elves. Ophira grew more and more powerful while the magic in Bayala kept fading away. The land has become infertile, and plants are withering down. Meanwhile, Sura is still trapped in Shadow Castle. She has grown up into a young woman but still yearns to unite with her family. Luckily, she befriended two shadow elves, Jaro and Nure, who helped her in running away from the castle. The guards try to stop them, but Sura accidentally summons her shadow magic and succeeds in escaping. However, Nure is left behind. Sura promises to come back for Nure and invites Jaro to her home in Bayala. Jaro politely declines the offer because the sun elves don't like the shadow elves. Sura reaches Bayala all by herself and meets her twin sister Sarah. She is really happy to see Sura but gets shocked at her wings. Because of living at the Shadow Castle, Sura has grown shadow wings. However, Bayala welcomes her with love. 5 years pass away, but Bayala hasn't figured out how to bring the magic back to their kingdom. The different elven tribes have stopped meeting, and Bayala has turned into a gloomy place. The dragons stopped visiting too, and no one knows if they still exist or not. One early morning while flying through the woods, Sura meets a dragon for the first time in her life. She gets really excited, but has no idea how to communicate with him. The dragon flies away after a while, but his breath heals the withered flowers. Sura grabs the flowers to show them to Sarah and share the big news. But she suddenly remembers that she is getting late for the queen coronation. Meanwhile, a young sun elf named Marween discovers a strange stone. She hears some noises and assumes that it's a talking rock. This can be a perfect gift for the new queen. She takes the stone and her pet, Pew, and rushes to the castle. On her way, she notices a shadow elf and runs to hide, only to discover that it is Sura. Her wings often deceive the sun elves. But due to having shadow wings, Sura is the only sun elf that can fly before the sunrise. Marween keeps staring at Sura with admiration and wishes to be like her. The sun is slowly rising, and the sun elves are waking up for their daily chores. But Sura is already flying around and goes to meet her sister. Sarah is busy watering her plants and gets surprised to see Sura. She gets even more shocked when she sees the flower Sura brought. Sura wants to tell her about the dragon, but they get interrupted by their servant. Sura decides to wait for now because everyone is busy preparing for the coronation. Their eldest sister, Isla, is going to be the next queen. Their father died just a year ago, and Isla doesn't feel prepared enough for this huge responsibility. The circumstances aren't favorable either. Their war with Ophira doesn't seem to end. The magic is fading away. The plants are withering, and the elf tribes are acting like upset kids. To cheer up Ayala, Sura and Sarah decide to share the big news. The dragons are still alive. Isla refuses to believe them as no one saw them for years. Sura gives up and gets ready for the coronation. Marween has arrived as well, and she has brought her talking stone. She dodges the guards and gets inside the castle. Once all the elves have gathered, the queen gets ready for her speech. She gives her family bracelets to her sisters Sura and Sarah and wears the crown herself. Everyone starts cheering for the queen, but the ceremony gets interrupted by a sudden attack of the ravens. They are sent by Ophira. She uses special magic to see through the eyes of ravens. Ophira is not happy to see that she wasn't invited to the coronation. She's one of the royals too and wanted to compete for the throne. After getting the updates, Ophira calls back her ravens and starts preparing for her next strategy. Meanwhile, at the Sun Elf Castle, everyone helps each other in getting back in place. After a while, an expected guest joins the ceremony. It's the Shadow Elf Jaro who helped Sura in escaping. Sura gets really happy to see him and immediately asks about Nure, but Jaro is banished from the Shadow Castle since he helped Sura. The Sun Elves get uncomfortable on seeing Jaro's wings, but the queen asks everyone to respect Jaro. He's a hero. Sura also checks on Marween and asks about her stone. Suddenly, the stone cracks and a small leg hangs outside. The queen understands everything and asks her servants to evacuate the hall immediately. This is not a stone, but a real dragon egg. Marween mentions that she can talk to the egg, but the queen declares it's a special power granted to only a few elves. Marween can communicate with dragons. The baby dragon is named Nugur, and he wants to come out of his shell. Queen Ayala asks Marween to keep the dragon inside the egg for now because the first thing a baby dragon should see is his parents. Otherwise, the magic will be broken. Queen Ayala suddenly gets a great idea to bring prosperity back to Bayala. They are going to host a dragon feast. The queen will contact all the royalty of different elf tribes, but she doubts Ophira will come. Sura knows the solution. They can invite Nure as she is Ophira's niece and belongs to the royal bloodline. The dragon's feast must begin at noon of the summer solstice at Solstice Rock. They don't have much time and must plan everything quickly. They will start traveling to the Barrow Mountains where the trail splits into two ways. One way goes to the Shadow Elf Castle, and the other one leads to the Dragon's Peak. Sura and Jaro will go to the Shadow Castle to bring Nure, while Sarah and Marween will head to the Dragon's Peak to invite them. Meanwhile, the queen will talk to the other tribes and convince them to join the dragon feast. Afterward, they all will gather at the Solstice Stone. They have less than 3 days, and Ophira's storm magic will not spare them in the sky, so instead of flying, they need to ride the horses, but must keep Nugur hidden. Once Ophira spots him, she will do anything to get the baby dragon. Sura and her team leave for their mission, while the queen goes back to the castle to meet the other royalties. The first one to arrive is the Queen of Ice Elves. She seems like an arrogant woman who makes fun of Isla for not being experienced enough for this throne. The Ice Queen excuses herself as she can't stand heat. She must return to her luxurious ice castle. Little does she know, Isla has all the knowledge and reveals that the ice castle is melting away already. The only way to save the castle is by bringing the dragon magic. Isla announces that she is holding a dragon feast and will prove that she deserves to be the queen. The next guest is the king of the Rainbow Elves. Luckily, he's quite friendly and immediately agrees to join the feast. Meanwhile, Sura and her team have reached near the Barrow Mountains. They stop for a while to rest and look for food. Marween starts wondering what to feed Nugur, but the little dragon knows how to take care of himself. He uses his fire breath to roast a fish and eats it in seconds. Now the elves need to prepare their food. Jaro tries to light up a fire, but Sarah makes it easier with her magic flowers. Jaro gets impressed and realizes that the sun and shadow elves can be good friends. Suddenly, the ravens arrive again. Jaro and Sarah hide in a corner while Sura rushes to protect the dragon egg. Ophira suspects that Sura is hiding something, so she sends storms to reveal the secrets. Seeing the storms, Sura's shadow magic also gets triggered. It's more powerful than Ophira's magic and defeats the storms. Sarah gets really excited as no sun elf ever succeeded in performing such powerful magic. She keeps asking why Sura was hiding her powers, but Sura doesn't seem happy about this. She thinks that shadow magic is evil, and it will only bring more destruction. Jaro has found their horses and elves continue on their journey. Meanwhile, Ophira gets the news of the upcoming dragon feast, which makes the situation more suspicious. Ophira wants to know the whole truth and sends her ravens to follow Sura. The elves have started climbing up the mountains and find some rare flowers. Sura rushes to get a closer look of the flowers, but she accidentally falls into a hole. The elves immediately get inside the hole and find Sura, but the interior leaves them in shock. It's the most beautiful underground meadow the elves have ever seen. There lives a great teacher of magic, Magus Balara. She investigates the egg and reveals the dragon's powers to make the elf's magic stronger. Marween can't feel the change as the egg was always near her and it was buried under her house. She's a chosen one and a very special elf. Vital magic oozes from her. While they are talking, the dragon starts running around and cracks its shell. Magus Balara immediately gives a ribbon to Marween, so she ties the shell. The dragon's eyes must stay covered until he meets his parents. Sura suddenly remembers about the dragon eggs which Ophira stole. No one has any clue where they went. Even while staying at the Shadow Castle for years, Sura never saw a single dragon egg. She wonders if the eggs were destroyed because Ophira is as evil as her shadow magic. Magus Balara advises Sura to stop calling the magic evil. Nothing is good or evil on its own. It depends upon the use. To help Sura get a better understanding, Magus Balara takes her to the special place where the Blue Eye Stone is. Their ancestors came here to see things from a new perspective. Magus Balara has already sensed that Sura can cast the storm spell, but her fear is getting in the way. She shouldn't be afraid of becoming like Ophira. The nature of the magic depends upon its user, and Sura is not evil. Sura understands everything and finally accepts her magic powers. The next morning, Magus Balara arranges a ship for the elves so they can cross the sea and reach the Dragon Peak. The Shadow Castle is on the other side too. Before they can get on the ship, Ophira sends another raven. Marween scares away the raven, but now Ophira has seen the baby dragon. Magus Balara wishes best of luck to the elves and looks forward to meeting them at Solstice Rock. The elves get in the sea, but as they reach the middle, Ophira sends a deadly storm. She plans to kill the elves and steal the baby dragon. Nure tries to stop her evil aunt, but Ophira ties her with chains. Sura's ship can't stand against the deadly storms. She must use her magic. Sura takes her position and casts a powerful storm spell, but it's no match to Ophira's magic. Eventually, the evil wins, and a thunderbolt breaks the ship into pieces. The elves get washed away to the shore and wakes up after several hours. They have entered the Shadow Realm, which is miles away from the Dragon Peak. Moreover, Ophira's ravens are sitting right in front of them, and Ophira can see everything. She will not let them escape at any cost. It seems like the elves have lost this war already. Marween refuses to accept defeat as she can't give up before uniting Nugur with his parents. They should figure out a way. Sura suggests that 3 of them should go to the Shadow Castle to rescue Nure, while Marween will secretly sneak to the Dragon's Peak and find Nugur's parents. Sarah doesn't agree because the Dragon Peak is twice as far as they planned, and Marween is too young to cover this dangerous journey all by herself. However, Marween believes that she is a special elf that is chosen for this great task. When Sura was her age, she escaped the Shadow Castle so Marween can also carry out this mission. Sura admires Marween's bravery and asks her to get ready for the journey, but before she leaves, they need to distract the ravens. Sura has the perfect solution for that as well. She uses coal to cover her bird in black and gives it a fire rose. The bird pretends to be a raven and sits among them. The next morning, after getting the signal, the bird drops the fire rose and burns the tree. The ravens start flying here and there, and Marween uses this chance to escape. She carries Nugur and Pew and flies towards the Dragon's Peak. Nugur is quite heavy and Marween gets tired really soon, but then she realizes that Nugur can fly too. The journey gets easier and they rush towards their destination. However, on reaching the freezing part of the mountains, Marween starts to run out of energy. She's exhausted, but she can't give up right now. Nugur must be delivered to his parents. Meanwhile, Ophira doesn't realize that an elf escaped. She asks the ravens to keep following Sura, and also uses a storm shadow to send Sura an important message. Ophira is ready to let Nure go, but in exchange, Sura has to give the baby dragon. Sura pretends to agree so she can get inside the Shadow Castle and help Nure escape. The time is running out quickly, and the elf kings and queens are waiting at the Solstice Rock. Magus Balara has arrived there as well, and she helps Queen Isla in preparing the dragon feast. After a really long time, the elf tribes are working together as one. Now their prosperity lies in Sura's hands. Sura makes a fake egg and takes it to the Shadow Castle. Sura requests Ophira to forget the past events and join Bayala so the magic can return to all of them. But Ophira is a selfish lady who believes no one is worthy of magical powers except her. She orders to give the dragon baby, so Sura shows her the fake egg. Ophira gets really angry and sends her ravens towards the Dragon's Peak. Luckily, Marween has climbed up the Dragon's Peak already. She finds a cave and carefully walks inside it. The dragons get shocked to see her, but then they notice the baby dragon. Nugur finally opens his eyes and sees his parents. The ravens come to attack them, but the dragon family scare them away. Meanwhile, Ophira orders her servants to throw the elves in the darkest dungeon for the rest of their lives. Sura gets angry and initiates her storm magic. Ophira laughs at her bravery and challenges Sura for a fight. They face each other's storm spell in the sky while the rest of the elves fight with the guards. Sura tries her best, but she's not as experienced as Ophira. She loses the fight and falls down. After a while, she gets up holding hands with Sarah and Nure. Suddenly, their powers start to unite, and Sura gains the strength of both sun and shadow elves. She casts the storm spell again, but this time it is combined with sun elf magic. The strong spell defeats Ophira and turns her into a stone statue. The impact also breaks the dragon statues in the castle and reveals the stolen eggs hidden inside them. The elves grab the eggs and get inside the shadow boats to reach the Solstice Rock. Sura introduces Nure as the queen of the shadow elves and requests the other tribes to accept her. Nure feels grateful and returns the dragon eggs to mark the start of the friendship between the sun and shadow elves. Marween arrives as well and brings the dragon. The legendary feast begins, and the elves celebrate the new start. After the meal, Queen Isla asks Marween to prepare herself as she's going to be the royal liaison of the dragons and apprentice of Magus Balara. Marween never thought she would get such a great honor, but she deserves every bit of it. Nure also didn't expect to be a queen, and Sarah never thought she would get another sister in Nure. Sometimes unexpected things happen, but they are meant to be. Sura stands up in excitement and proposes a toast to the royal families, to the dragons, to the heroes who carried out this dangerous mission, and to Bayala. This is a new beginning for all of Bayala. The dragon's eggs are going to be distributed among every realms of Bayala to spread magic to all of the tribes.